Welcome to the top 25 stories of 2025 from Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ daily news television show, broadcasting live and available on demand on your favorite streaming channels. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we'll tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
You're watching Queer News Tonight, the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
2025 has been one of the most dramatic years for the LGBTQ community. Hotspots Magazine Happening Out television network shared more than 2,500 stories about and for our LGBTQ community. We don't know what 2026 will bring, so we thought we would finish our year by looking back. Of those 2,500 stories, let's look at the top 25 stories of 25. This curated list is drawn from Queer News Tonight, The FayWhat Show, Queer God Squad, and Hotspots Magazine. This was what was important to all of us in 25 of 2025. Let's queer up the top stories of the year. This is number 12 of 2025. Trump cuts LGBTQ+ youth suicide hotline funding mid-Pride month. On June 29th, we reflected on the Trump administration's announcement to eliminate funding for the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifelines LGBTQ youth services. The program has provided specialized crisis support to queer youth nationwide.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Rex Rogosh, and let's queer up politics. Trump cuts LGBTQ youth suicide hotline funding mid-Pride month. The Trump administration has announced it will eliminate funding for a suicide crisis line specifically designed for queer youth, effective just 1 month from now. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifelines LGBTQ Youth Specialized Services, which offers life-saving support to queer youth in crisis, will be shut down on July 17th. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration confirmed Wednesday. The decision accelerates a previous leaked plan that aimed to close the program by October 1st. James Black, CEO of the Trevor Project, said, quote, "The administration's decision to remove a bipartisan, evidence-based service that has effectively supported a high-risk group of young people throughout their darkest moments is incomprehensible. The fact that this news comes to us halfway through Pride Month is callous, as is the administration's choice to remove the T from the acronym LGBTQ+ in their announcement. Transgender people can never and will never be erased, end quote. According to the Trevor Project, more than 1.8 million queer youth in the U.S. seriously consider suicide each year, and with at least one attempt every 45 seconds. The LGBTQ crisis line has already reached 1.2 million people, while the broader 988 Lifeline has served over 14 million people. In moments of national political change, the need spikes. The day after Trump's 2024 win, the Trevor Project reported a 700% increase in the crisis contacts. However, there's still hope. The funding cut isn't final. Congress has the power to reverse it. The Trevor Project is calling on legislators to restore funding for the Lifeline. Individuals can also support by visiting thetrevorproject.org/act now. This story hits hard for me. If it wasn't for services like the Trevor Project and the Hotline, I probably wouldn't be here today. As some of you might know, I founded a nonprofit here that raises money for mental health because I am a survivor of attempted suicide several times and have been hospitalized several times and been put under watch for mental health issues. So to hear this breaks my heart, because without that, I wouldn't be here today. And it again enrages me because we now are cutting services and cutting funding to services that save lives. It's not hurting anybody at all. It's a phone call that can save a life. And I'm at a loss for words.
Sure. Well, I think the numbers really do speak for themselves. The fact that there was a 700% jump the day after the election in calls to the center indicate that people are well aware
Yes.
that they're trying to erase us. And the fact that 14 million people use just that one service says that there are 14 million people at least who need that service. Certainly the power of the purse is with Congress, and so they can, if they want, sort that out. We do see a little bit of a trend in Congress being a bit less pro Donald Trump because they're going back and they're getting yelled at by their constituents. And we certainly have the midterm elections where we can do a lot of good work to change the tide of this nonstop battery of attack on us. But yeah, the numbers speak for themselves. And I, for one, Rex, I am so happy you're here.
Absolutely. Thank you. And this is also a trickle-down effect. There's organizations here locally, like 211 Broward. They actually man the phones for the 988 crisis hotline. So that funding gets cut, and it is a trickle-down effect. So it not only affects nationally, but it affects everybody. And I'm hopeful. And you're right. Congress has been pushing back a little bit, and so. Again, unfortunately, this administration is throwing shit at the wall, literally, and seeing what sticks.
Yep.
And I'm just hoping that this moves past just the LGBT marker of people. This is little Johnny in the middle of Oklahoma.
That's right.
Who doesn't know what to do or know where to go, and that's someone's son. So I'm hoping that people listen, or that's someone's brother, or that's someone's nephew, or that's someone's neighbor or classmate. And I hope that they realize that with this happening, that little Johnny could be gone.
Sure. Well, and it's important that we remember on all levels, right? It's important that folks know that there is help there, right?
Yes.
And that we support that. But it's also extremely important that, and I'm going to say mothers and fathers, but I'm going to say mothers know that your kid who you don't think is gay and doesn't have an outlet like this, they might wind up dead because they don't have that service. And the fact that you as a person have ignored that or have supported an administration that undermines it and doesn't support it, that's on you. And that's a hard thing that you need to take to bed with yourself at night.
Let's queer up the top stories of the year. This is number 11 of 2025. Boise Straight Pride Fest flops and gets hijacked by queer song. June 24th, we report on the Heterosexual Awesomeness Festival in Boise. It promised a major anti-woke alternative to Pride, but drew only a small crowd. The event gained attention after an unexpected pro-LGBTQ performance disrupted the program. This was not the only failed attempt made by conservatives activists.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Julio Capo, and let's queer up the USA View. Boise Straight Pride Fest flops and gets hijacked by queer song. A so-called heterosexual awesomeness festival in Boise, Idaho turned into a cautionary tale of overpromising and under-delivering, drawing only dozens of attendees to what organizers claimed would be a high-energy celebration of, quote, family values with guts. The event, held at Cecile D. Andrus Park and organized by bar owner Mark Fitzpatrick, was billed as an anti-woke, God-centered answer to Pride events. Fitzpatrick declared it would, quote, obliterate the anti-family noise. But the only thing that was obliterated seemed to be the crowd size. Things took a turn when openly pro-LGBTQ musician Daniel Hamrick took the stage, stripping off his shirt to reveal a Keep Canyon County Queer t-shirt and a rainbow patch jacket. Hamrick performed his song, Boy, a haunting piece about a trans child enduring forced conformity and societal cruelty.
Daniel Hamrick? Hamrick, right on. Give it up. Let's do this.
Now, before I get started, Earl told me to talk about myself a bit. We got any veterans out here today? Got a handful of veterans. All right. I'd know if I'm supposed to wear bits of my uniform when I'm not in uniform, but as a former Army Ranger, I thought I might wear my little tambourine here today. It's kind of special to me, so I figured I'd have it with me for this little performance. Charlie, you to come up here for a sec? Fantastic. Everybody, give it up for my buddy Charlie here. A little something special just for this performance. This first song is called Boy. They put him in dresses to keep him in line. They say it's a phase and it's all in his mind. They put him in ballet, he wants to play ball. What matters to him doesn't matter at all. The boy that everyone thought was a girl. The boy that everyone thought was a girl. Afraid the world might come unfold. The boy that everyone thought was a girl. 2, 3, 4. They grew out his hair, but he wanted it short. Put him in a skirt, now he's all out of sorts. It's not just aesthetics, it's down to his heart. They're breaking his will and he's breaking apart. The boy that everyone thought was a girl. The boy that everyone thought was a girl. Afraid to skew their ignorant view. The boy that everyone thought was a girl. This kid has got no chance, must stop the woke advance. Let teacher take a glance, what's in your underpants? Elephants taking pride in tranny suicide. When all the books are fried, we'll see how many died. Afraid of the news on his parents' TV. At church they...
The live stream cut out mid-song. Fitzpatrick rushed to the stage, took the mic, and later told KTVB, quote, "This is yet another example of lies and deception from the Pride community. Pathetic and evil," end quote. This isn't the first failed straight Pride event. From Seattle to Boston, past efforts have drawn tiny crowds, larger counter-protests, and in one case, a solo marcher with cardboard signs. The message from these events remains clear. Hate doesn't sell. Not even with food trucks. This story is so incredibly powerful to me because that song that took guts and gratitude for that to do that. I love that kind of activism too, the kind of theatrical, kind of witty and very bold and like like almost taking off a mask at something like you thought that you knew who I was and like actually I could look like this and still be a good person, right? Or whatever, right? Like, and I just love that kind of, it reminds me of Act Up or something, like the kind of like queerness of protest. This was powerful protest. And the song, I did not know who this artist was before. I know you now and I'm grateful for you.
I'll bet Mark Fitzpatrick. I love the quote from Reddit that there were, quote, more porta potties than people, end quote. Maybe the state should change its name to Ida No.
I mean, we just have to thank Boise for, bringing him on, right? I mean, they clearly knew what they were doing, right? They clearly knew.
They did their research.
Yeah. I mean, again, as you said, acts of resistance. I think that, we need more of this energy in so many spaces and to take that risk. And the one thing I'll say to Boise is you can't turn a donkey into a unicorn. So your pride is not going to be like our pride and people are not going to show up for it. So keep throwing your money down the drain. We're going to keep doing what we're doing and bring smiles and rainbows and queer people to towns across America.
And that money was what, $85,000, something like that? And
yeah, I mean, I don't know why they continue to waste money down the drain. You know, they don't leave any controversy with their lifestyle. You know, they're doing this. I mean, it's good for us, right? You know, just so that we see. And I'm so proud of that activist.
Yeah.
I'm proud of like him standing up, and you know, it was a beautiful song. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's nice to see that. You know, like activism, like from our community.
And I think you hear a lot of times that like our pride events and our queer events are recruiting people. Well, if this straight awesomeness was a recruiting tool, it's really flopped miserably. I have no interest in being straight after seeing 7 people on an empty field. If this is what straight life is like, it's really boring.
Hetero awesomeness. Like, where did they even come up with this?
Those
Like,
are 2 words that should never go together in the same
gross.
sentence. Yeah.
Ugh.
Let's queer up the top stories of the year. This is number 13 of 2025. WorldPride DC only meets 33% of projected attendance and revenue, mostly over concerns of fear. On June 9th, we discussed WorldPride 2025 and its conclusion of mixed results. Tourism fell short of early projections, raising questions about expectations and impact. Still, major performances, historic visuals, and moments of resilience filled the streets, underscoring the LGBTQ community's determination and visibility.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm FayWhat, and let's queer up gay culture. WorldPride DC only meets 33% of projected attendance and revenue, mostly over concerns of fear. WorldPride in Washington finished last night in the shadow of the Capitol and the White House. But largely, the news promised by WorldPride organizers had disappointing results for attendance and revenues. WorldPride may not even end up to be the largest LGBTQ event in America in 2025. BBC reports on the numbers for WorldPride, saying, quote, the U.S. Capitol won the bid to host WorldPride years before Trump's re-election. In January, the event organizers had projected that the celebration, which coincides with the 50th anniversary of Washington's first Pride March, would attract 3 million visitors and contribute nearly $800 million to the local economy. But their expectations have now dropped to about a third of their previous estimates, end quote. Destination DC, the official tourism organization for the city, reports that overall occupancy over the weekend in Washington, D.C. was down 3% compared to the same weekend in 2024. This means that the visibility of Pride may not have drawn the expected huge international visitors. The downturn of the entire city may suggest concerns related to WorldPride may have kept even more tourists away. Washington's mayor, Muriel Bowser, discussed the concerns of the weekend when she acknowledged the visitors, saying, quote, feel scared that an environment is developing that is anti-LGBTQ, but we can't live in fear. We have to live our lives and be as best prepared as we can, end quote. Kelly Lasco, the owner of Her Diner in DuPont Circle, one of DC's most vibrant LGBTQ neighborhoods, echoed this sentiment, saying, quote, I feel like normally with Pride, we are ready for the celebration. And obviously the current administration has put a big damper on that, end quote. Many stories developed over the weekend. On a brighter note, Broadway and Hollywood star Cynthia Erivo headlined the celebration with power and pride. The festivities kicked off with a jaw-dropping sight, a rainbow flag as long as 3 football fields, carried by 500 proud voices and supporters from the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington, D.C. Behind them, buses rolled by, draped in trans, bi, and ace flags, with cheers ringing through the streets. Erivo lit up the night by singing Whitney Houston's I Wanna Dance with Somebody, calling back to the lives lost in the Pulse nightclub shooting. As Erivo gave a quick shout out to her wicked hits, the crowd erupted in joy. One of the headlines at the WorldPride DC was RuPaul. As one YouTube user said, RuPaul was acting a fool plus serving Gardner at WorldPride Music Festival, clad in full-on Gardner fantasy, sun hat, shades, and all. RuPaul hit the decks and had the crowd gagging. Fans couldn't get enough, end quote. Another memorable moment at WorldPride, Jennifer Lopez premiered I'm Free, an LGBTQ anthem with the lyric, free to love whoever I please. Backed by the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington, she also covered George Michael's Freedom on the White House lawn, saluting queer fans and spotlighting freedom through song, not stardom. Singer-songwriter and actor Renee Rapp laughed and blew kisses from a pickup draped in a transgender flag, while Laverne Cox waved from a convertible. The 2 grand marshals alongside Deacon McCubbin led a dazzling DC Pride parade. Outside the national city, Christian church, rainbow flags, and balloons greeted hundreds. Asian American and Pacific Islander groups, Mayor Muriel Bowser, and DC police joined the march, turning the streets into a bold, joyful celebration of queer love. A dark note occurred, unfortunately, near the end of World Pride's parade in Washington, D.C. on Saturday as people fled DuPont Circle following violent incidents. Local elected official Vincent Slatt told The Advocate there was both a shooting and a stabbing near the festivities. At 7:02 p.m., 2 minors were hospitalized after a stabbing during a fight between juvenile groups in DuPont Circle Park. Later at 7:52, a man was shot in the foot nearby. He was transported conscious and breathing. Police have not confirmed whether the violence was linked to Pride or if the victims had attended the celebration. Despite recent attacks on queer rights, the energy in D.C. said one thing loud and clear: we're not going anywhere. World Pride D.C. it deserved to soar, but instead, unfortunately, it limped. The performers were electric, the flags were flying, and Cynthia Erivo gave us church and gave us pulse all in one note. But let's be real. Fear loomed. The drop in turnout wasn't about lack of pride. It was about safety. When people don't feel protected in the capital of the so-called free world, that's not just a bad look for World Pride, but that's a warning shot for all of us. We need joy and justice in our lives. And unfortunately, this had to play out how it played out. What do you boys think?
I mean, the program itself was stellar. I mean, look at the artists that came in: Cynthia Erivo, the Gay Men's Chorus of Washington D.C. We'll definitely get in there and perform, especially during the Pride months when it's most necessary. But the one thing that was missing from this, obviously, is a better president. And I think that was what was anticipating from all of this. It was like, I think, when they chose Washington, D.C., I think we were being hopeful and, on a better outcome. But I attended the one, the 50th anniversary in New York about 5 years ago and stuff, and it was electrifying. It was so mass. So, I understand people's fears and not wanting to, be cautious and stay home. But, it's more important than ever to really get out. And I'm hoping that people, especially in South Florida this weekend, will definitely come out for all the Pride celebrations.
Yeah, but what a big hit. Like 3% under last year at the same time. Cal?
And they've been advertising this for years. I know people who've been talking about DC Pride, going on years and years, and we've even talked about
we were thinking of going during Kamala's run. We were like, okay, we're gonna go
at some point, and it's just it comes to a time and it's like, okay, maybe it's not the best choice, to be able to go, and it's sad to think that way because, as Americans, as first generation American myself, I love everything about this country, and to be able to be not only openly gay, but also first generation, Muslim American, to be able to go to Pride in my country's national capital, that would have been amazing. But I feel like because, Trump is completely against us. I think the other night you did a story here on Queer News Tonight that Trump replaced Pride Month with Title IX month.
Title IX month.
And I'm like, how ridiculous is that? And it's like, so he's not a fan of the LGBT community.
But you can just tell that by looking at the hair and the makeup.
But how about the folks internationally that love to go to Prides everywhere?
People are afraid to travel.
And especially our trans siblings. Those are the folks that I'm worried about, right? If there's a travel ban, if people are telling you don't come to the U.S. because you might get, sent to El Salvador.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to want to come here.
Right. Yeah, I heard an interview with Laverne Cox saying, if I were coming from out of the country, I would not come here.
She said that.
She said it verbatim. I would not come here. I would not
take the chance. Yeah.
No, not worth the chance. Yeah. And there are trans people whose identification is now misrepresenting them completely, 100%. So how can you travel when you don't even have proper documentation and ID?
Yeah.
It's also upsetting that we're at this stage. Yeah. No pun intended. But Cynthia Erivo, yes. I mean, I've just seen the clips of her turn it out. And then, she did the next day, she was the host of the Tony Awards in New York and turned out even more The Voice. She's spectacular. No, I'm such a Erivo fan. But I just wanted to bring that in, that moment that she was also the next day doing the Tony Awards.
No, and incredible. I mean, and think about, like Edward was saying, the people that were invited, you know what I mean? J-Lo, Troye Sivan, Cynthia Erivo, Vincent, who I, was with yesterday at the Arch Center, Ray. I mean, so many incredible, Tracy Young. There were so many incredible people that were invited to be a part of this, And let me just say to all the folks who did show up, all the people who organized this, you guys are activists, okay? You went out there and you protested and you showed up. And I give you big love for that because, I couldn't. You know what I mean? Like, and that sucks that I'm scared. You know what I mean? I passed. I'm not trans. And yet I still was like, if my trans siblings can't go, I don't want to go.
Right.
But we did have people from, our community here that were there.
There were a lot of
Awesome
people.
to see, which
Yeah.
is great. And, we've seen the numbers dropping in Pride. I think when they say 33%, how much of that was anticipated international travel versus domestic, because I would be curious to see is that large percentage due to the international travel ban.
I wonder if they're able to.
I think it would be both, because when you think about it, now when you think of DC, at least for me, when I think of DC, I think of Trump. You know what I mean? When I think of the White House, I think of Trump. When I think of the Capitol, I think of Trump. So that just means that domestically, people would be like, I don't want to go there either.
And not
it would have been different if it would have been Kamala. We all would have been there half naked right there on the lawn.
And not many people talk about the economic impact of these events. This event would have brought $800 million to DC. That's hotels, that's food, that's spending an Uber, that's like, you go to these events, you spend money. Just like with Stonewall Pride in Wilton Manors, people are going to eat, they're going to drink, they have to Uber here, they're going to spend money, and that's the economic impact that these events have on our cities. And people need to start to realize that. These events are important, not only for our community and society, but the economic impact as well.
We're looking back at the top LGBTQ news stories of the year from Queer News Tonight. If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Don't forget to join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform. Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow and then thrive, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight. We'll see you daily at 8 p.m. To our LGBTQ+ world, we wish you a good night.